So what's up everybody? Thanks for clicking this video. Thanks for tuning into my channel. My name is Simon Hill, Black American from Louisiana, and I'm here in Budapest, Hungary with my beautiful wife. Say hi, boo.
Hi everyone, I'm AKDI and I'm from Turkey.
Let's go. So we are reviewing today Acti's choice of film called The African Desperate, the 2022 drama slash comedy slash Gen Z art film. We watched it last night for the first time, and we've been talking about it all last night and this morning before we started this live stream. I enjoyed it, but I can say like the film is better as a discussion rather than just watching it, in my opinion. And I feel like, some people might enjoy this film and some people might turn it off. I think like they might be turned off by it, because of the art house style and the acting and stuff like that. But I don't know. Acting, how did you feel after we watched it?
I felt the same, like how you said, not everyone might like this movie, but I
Hmm.
do also think they stepped on like interesting topics and discussions. And like aside, maybe like if the acting was improved more, I think this movie does have a lot of potential to be like one of those deep, movies. And it already is. But yeah.
Yeah. It already is a deep film. It's just, yeah, the acting is very amateurish in certain ways, and certain scenes are shot in ways that make it, kind of, uh, hard to watch. Very hard to watch. And yeah, that's how I feel about it. But, yeah, anything you want to add on?
No, I guess we can like go into the discussion.
Right. So basically, this film is the story of this young black female artist. Her name is Palace, and she's basically getting her master's in fine arts, right? And she's going to some nondescript, they don't give the name. She's going to some university in like upstate New York, some preppy art college and stuff like that. And the film opens with like her, getting her materials ready on the floor. She's like in this room, this classroom, and she's like bent over trying to like get her art straight to get it prepared for her final presentation of her thesis, for her professors. Something I don't think that, you noticed, but, or maybe you don't remember, but she was like bent over and like her butt was to the door. And then I think Ezra passed by. Ezra is like this guy who's like a romantic interest of Palace. He saw her bent over and he's like, hey. And she's like, hey. Did you remember that?
No, I did not see that part, or I don't remember it.
Yeah, yeah. I think that's important for later in the film because of Ezra's and Palace's like, interactions. But yeah, she then has like her thesis presentation to like four white professors, and like one white professor is like, I get your art. I feel it. It makes sense. Another male professor is like, you work hard. You work really hard. And another white professor is like, it feels like you're trying too hard to show us you did the homework. And another white lady is like, there's other black artists making art just like yours. What are you going to do to stand out? And, even though like Palace has her art displayed in like a fancy, like art expo, like one of the most prominent art expos in the world, like they're still sort of like dismissing her, stuff like that. What did you think
Yeah.
about like the opening scene?
Yeah, she was accepted to like Venice Art Biennale, which
Mm-hmm.
is like a pretty big thing. I even heard about it, and I'm
Mm-hmm.
not in arts.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, like in the first scene, I definitely like got the I don't know, you said you didn't before when we were discussing it, but when like all four professors showed up and they're all like white and she's being put on the spot about like herself as an artist, I did get like the vibe of, okay, there's gonna be like um this discussion on like microaggressions of white people
Mm-hmm.
on black people.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, I felt like they were sort of like discussing her instead of her arts, which
Yeah.
like she makes it like clear in her replies as well. And also I was thinking like, they were asking her, where are you going to go with your art? What are you going to do after this? And all sorts of things. And she was just saying like, I don't know.
Mm-hmm.
And I was like, that's ballsy. because
Hmm.
like I'm thinking I'm studying masters right now in psychology, and if my professor asks me and I say I don't know, I feel like that would be really bad. But I guess with arts, it's like more, it does have more space to say I don't know because it's art.
Yeah, yeah. Now, what did you think of Palace's like style, like when we're first introduced to her? Because like she's like wearing this floral printed dress. She has orange hair. You know, she's smoking blunts in her classroom and like drinking wine before the presentation she has to do. Like, what did you think of her aesthetic?
Well, I like the wine and the blunt. I would definitely want to hang out with her if she's doing that.
I think you said it when you saw it. You said that's a big blunt.
Yeah, that was a huge blunt, and I'm sure I cannot handle that blunt. But yeah, I liked her like chillness, I guess,
Hmm.
and
Hmm.
how she was, and maybe it's also because there is that sort of like view of artists that they're like always drunk and getting high, or always like have some drama in their life, and that's how they reflect it in their art, sort of thing.
Hmm.
Maybe a little bit there was that stereotype, but
Hmm.
also she's young, so young people do that as well.
Right.
But I did think like her talking and like just her energy was like very low,
Hmm.
and I was like, okay, like I don't know if I'm gonna be liking this main character because she's talking like like not very high energy. But then
Yeah.
later on in the movie, it made sense.
Yeah, 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 it does. That's where I think a lot of people might tune out on this film. Like, why is this girl speaking with this deep, sort of husky voice, like she doesn't care about anything? And then also some people might be turned off, like, by her whole style, like the orange hair and stuff like that, and smoking blunts in the office. But that was actually cool. Like, like, Palace seems like somebody I would want to have as a friend, but she'll probably like, be like being very sarcastic in every comment about everything. That's how I feel.
Yeah, yeah, like very sort of like poetically sarcastic,
Yeah,
if that
yeah.
makes sense.
But as far as like the microaggressions and like the discussion about like race in this film, I did not go into this film expecting it to be so subtly focused on race, if that makes sense. Because I felt like, okay, yeah, it's called The African Desperate, but I felt like, okay, the beginning scene when all the white judges are right in front of her, I know what that feels like as a black person, being the only black person in the room and being judged on everything I say or do, and people coming in with their perceptions of me already in hand, and even after they leave, me trying to do some performance and downplay my blackness to some degree. Like, I know what that feels like, and this film touched me in a lot of ways because I went to a PWI, which is a predominantly white institution. In America, we have historically black colleges, which are a few, and then we have most of the majority of our universities, predominantly white, right? And so I know what that feels like to be with like these weird art kids because I went to like a weird art school in New Orleans, and them having those sorts of microaggressions, them being subtly racist, like I know what that feels like, but I didn't expect the film to go in that direction. And I didn't even actually really even feel it when the woman was like, there's other women artists out there, there's other artists of your class and other artists of your race. Like, cause the way she said race, it didn't feel like, you know, she was doing that in a diminutive way, like a condescending way. You get what I'm saying? Are you following me?
Yeah, I mean, I don't think that part was condescending, but when she said like, "Where are you from?" like Chicago or something, right? And then
Yeah,
that's when it got like offensive.
yeah, yeah, yeah. But yeah, at the very beginning, I was like, okay, so we're past the like, okay, white gaze that we're dealing with. We're dealing with, the system of white supremacy, blah blah blah. And then I thought the rest of the movie was going to be like her lusting after like some skinny white boy. You get what I'm saying? I
Yeah.
thought that was going to be the end of it. But yeah,
Well, yeah, there was a skinny white boy, but we'll see about that.
yeah, yeah. Do you want to continue in the story? Do you want to read the review? How do you want to do it?
Let's just like go through the story real quick, and then we
Yeah.
can read the story if you want. But you
Okay.
can continue.
Okay, okay. So basically, after she does the presentation, Palace is told by her professors, "You did it, Palace. You're a master of the fine arts." And they all cheers with little cups of wine, and they leave the room. And Palace starts to cry. What did you think of Palace's crying scene? Because that was like a good minute of her on screen, just crying and then smoking a big blunt.
Yeah, definitely felt like a cry of relief to me. Like she was like, "Oh my god, like I finally did it and I'm like I can't wait to get out of here." And yeah, it was sort of like that. It felt like she was tired of, being there. And I didn't relate it to like race at that point, like her crying or like her not feeling, accepted
hmm
fully.
hmm
But it was for me, it was more about like, that stress of, studying and then trying to prove yourself, especially with masters
hmm
as you're getting older and stuff.
hmm
So yeah, I think that's what I felt. What did you think?
Yeah, I thought the cry was like you said, relief, but it's also that cry of like, damn, this is what I gave my life for. I wanted just to do art, but now the rest of my life is gonna be me putting my art out there and white people just judging it and judging me and trying to just please them and perform for them. So it was like a double-edged sort of cry. Like she achieved her dreams, but at what cost?
Yeah, I mean, there was a point in her like evaluation where she was saying something along the lines of like, stop like judging me or stop critiquing me as a person, but start like looking at the work.
Right.
You
Because
know?
this is work. And as she points at them, I like that scene so much.
Yeah,
Let's talk
yeah,
about the work because this, all of y'all are work.
yeah. And I don't know, like it feels also like, her art. We saw like one piece really, which was like she had like waves and like fake hair, I
hmm
guess,
hmm
and in like the separating board.
hmm
And so, like, we can guess, okay, her art does have like black elements and things like that. But I
Yeah.
do also feel like in the art world, if you're like a black person, you are sort of categorized and you're expected to talk about like black
hmm
issues, racism and stuff like that.
hmm
And, yeah, maybe that's also a pressure too. Not that like she doesn't want to talk about it. Obviously she does because she puts in her art. But
hmm
when she does, there's also like, she is being like categorized
Yeah, that's one of
in
the
that
biggest.
sense.
That's one of the biggest faults of this film is that they don't show us Palace's art really. Like, yeah, we just see hair weaves on a rack, but what is that? What is that supposed to say? Like, that's just one piece. Show us some more. And the film also at the very beginning shows memes. Like, cause when the white professor asks her, "Are you from Chicago?" Like the west side of Chicago. There's like the meme of the girl doing the "what the fuck" like face. And yeah, that was funny when we saw it, and those memes continue to pop up throughout the film. What did you think of it when it first appeared?
Yeah, I mean, like that meme, we recognized it instantly.
Yeah.
And it was funny at certain points, like some of the things, but it was like very flashy and very small in the corner of the screen.
Mhm.
And I do wish like they showed more and longer for
Mhm.
like the memes to actually work because you have to like read the, writings on the
Yeah.
meme.
Yeah.
But I did feel like it was sort of, what came to into her mind when certain stuff happened. So we kind of see like what she's thinking
Yeah.
throughout the
Yeah.
memes, and it's also like very Gen Z thing.
It is very Gen Z. Like Gen Z films are still trying to figure themselves out. Like I don't know if you saw on my Twitter a few days ago, I posted that Bodies, Bodies, Bodies is Zoomer bullshit, and like Bottoms is like one of the worst reviewed films that we've done. Right? Like the Zoomer films are still trying to work their way into making sense. Right? But this is one of the better Zoomer films. It still has a lot of faults, but it's a better Zoomer film than other ones we've looked at, in my opinion.
Yeah, yeah, and I do feel also it deals with like better topics in general.
Yeah, yeah, definitely. But yeah, after the crime scene, not Fern, Palace leaves the school, and as she's leaving, this skinny girl, like with the shirt hanging off of her name is Fern, approaches her. It says, "Hey, you gonna come to the party?" And she's like, "Nah, I don't want to come to your party. I gotta go." And then she leaves, right? Um, what did you think of like Fern when she popped up, if anything?
She reminded me of like just those girls in school that feel entitled
Hmm.
to ask anyone anything
Hmm.
and sort of like think everyone will be okay with whatever they're saying or will accept like whatever they're doing.
Uh-huh.
I don't know. She kind of reminded me of that. I don't know. Like she didn't say anything mean, but her vibes were just off.
Yeah. From that first interaction, I got the opposite feeling. I felt like Palace was being like the mean one. Like she was like, I'm here to work. I'm here to be successful. Like, F all of y'all. I thought she was going to be the rude one to the rest of the school. Like maybe, she didn't want to go to the party because, all through the years she had been, dismissive of everybody around her. And so she wouldn't have had any friends. But that changes when we see the next girl pop up. I believe her name is Aiden, whatever.
Yeah.
Yeah. Like, they go out together. Aiden is like this tall, skinny white girl, of course, with like, bob cut blonde hair. They go to like this park, where there's a lake and they're sitting there reading poetry together. And this is where we find out that, Palace has like a mother who's sick and her brother's in Missouri. He should go see his mother in Chicago, but they put it up to Palace. So it shows that like Palace has like a lot of responsibility. And Palace is also a dead daughter, which I didn't get this part, and maybe you can explain, because I thought a dead daughter meant that, your mother was dead, or does that mean your father was dead? Can you explain that?
I thought I understood it because I thought it meant like their mother was dead, but
Uh-huh.
apparently her like mother wasn't dead.
Right.
She was alive. So then I was like, okay, maybe I didn't understand it, but
Uh-huh.
maybe it's something to do with like absence of mother,
Hmm.
like in your childhood or like in your birth or something.
Is it mother or father? Maybe it's the father thing.
I don't know. I'm
Cause,
not sure. I'm not sure because yeah, that was sort of confusing. And
yeah,
also like her friend also said like we are dead daughters.
yeah.
So yeah, they have like the same, past in terms
Hmm.
of that.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I was very confused by that because they bond by both being quote unquote dead daughters while sitting at the lake and then reading poetry together. There's a lot of references to like authors and artists throughout this film. So a lot of the times it flew over our head because, we're not that well read like they are. Like everybody in this film, like every other line is like, have you read this book? Have you heard of this author and stuff like that? What did you think of, their interaction like at the lake, or the relationship between Palace and Aiden, and then also like the constant references to artists and authors throughout the film?
Yeah, I think that was sort of giving the general vibe of the art school
Mm,
because like I think it is like in every, sort of profession if you're doing like masters and stuff like that or even just like your bachelor's cuz also like in my masters, everyone is like have you read this? Do you know this psychologist? Like do you know this theory? And all
mm,
sorts of things, even like our professors and things like that. So I think in the arts circle, it's even more
mm,
because there's like a lot of artists, a lot of like underground artists. And I feel like if you know the unknown artist, you're the cool kid.
mm-hmm,
Plus, like if you know the very like complicated popular artists as well.
mm-hmm, mm-hmm. Yeah,
So it
it's
was
like,
like symbolizing like what the art world is like, at least.
yeah, it was like a bit of pretentiousness, but then also authenticity as well, because somebody would drop like the name of the author, like, oh, you haven't heard of this person. And it was like obviously done to try to show that this person was trying to show that they're smarter than somebody else. But then in other times it's like, we are reading this person, and then it's like authentic, like, yeah, this is what, something that bonds us or something that we find interesting or fascinating about this artist or author. You get what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So there were times it was like double edged, which I think is what this film is trying to say. Like there's good and bad in this like preppy art school life, right?
Yeah.
It could be joyful but also painful. But yeah, they go swimming in the lake, and then after that they're like at a house, and like Aiden is still trying to convince Palace to like go to the party, and she really doesn't want to go at all. Once again, like they keep on trying to convince her. And then, yeah, Aiden is like borrowing the car of some guy friend who isn't there, and he lets her stay at his cabin and stuff like that. And, yeah, she walks into the house and it's like really crappy white people food, like kale chips and like, and like spinach cheese and stuff like that. And, yeah, basically she puts on a face mask, smokes a blunt, and then goes to sleep. What did you think about all of that?
Yeah, that was hilarious. I think one of the like funny scenes. And I like this movie because it does deal with, deep topics, especially about like being black in white spaces. But then also it does show like those funny sides of being black in white spaces. Like, you have to bring your own spices and you have to carry like hot sauce in your bag because this shit tastes bland as fuck.
Yeah. Yeah.
So yeah, shit like that. It was like, she's getting like a free house and she's getting to do her laundry at at her friend's cabin.
Yeah.
And he allows her to like do whatever. And it's like she can't even enjoy that because this shit tastes like shit. It's like, if you can't go to your friend's house and snack on her like fancy snacks and they taste like shit, like
Yeah.
what's the point?
Yeah. 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 There was like that was the part I realized, like, there's good and bad of having white liberal friends. Like, of course, you got to deal with like their casual racism, but at least they let you like stay in their summer homes, with no issue. And yeah, you could smoke blunts in there and just chill. And speaking of like drugs throughout the film, so like, we see Palace at the beginning, like smoking blunts and drinking and stuff like that, but she's not like doing any hard drugs yet. But I think there was a scene where she took like some mushrooms or something like that and then walked outside. Yeah. Yeah. Cause she made it to the house after she met up with like Hot Jake and her other friend, right? Like a few other friends, and they took like shroom dabs.
I
And
think
then
that was later.
that was later. You sure?
No, it was not later. Right, you're right.
Yeah. 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 But yeah, she was like doing a few drugs, but she wasn't trying to go like all out with the drugs and stuff like that throughout the film.
Yeah, I
Uh,
mean, when they asked her like what she wanted to do or why she wasn't coming to the party, she
yeah.
said like I just want to drink some wine, chill, like maybe smoke some weed
Yeah.
and just like hang out because she had to leave tomorrow
hmm
and she had a train. So she
Yeah.
wasn't trying to like party hardcore or anything like that.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
And we can also talk about like that scene where she was with her friends.
Uh-huh.
And it was basically like, yeah, there were like her white friends and there was like also one black dude there
Uh-huh.
as well. And they were like all sitting together and watching arts, which was like men jerking off.
Well, they weren't watching that. They were in an art gallery, but that was one of the art pieces there. And in the
Yeah.
background, there were video images of men jerking off and coming. But they're reading books. That was one of the funny things. Like the picture of jerking off and pornography is in the back, but then they're looking at other pieces of art. So yeah, go ahead.
But yeah, and they're like, they do talk and there's like a microaggression there.
hmm
I don't remember exactly what it was,
No, there
but
was I believe it was Palace suggested to one of her friends, "Hey, you should read this author. Her name is like Winter Summer or something like that." And then her friend is like, "Is that a black author?" And she's like, and Palace is like, "Yeah, why?" And her friend is like, "Oh, okay." And everybody just sort of looks at her weird. And then they say, "Hey, you want to do some shrooms?" And then they all do mushrooms.
yeah. And
Yeah.
there was also like the hot Jake guy that was
hmm
sort of hitting on, her as well. And he even gives her a dress for the
Uh-huh.
party. And
Yeah.
he says like, oh, you will look so like good in this dress.
Yeah, but
And
they pressure her because they all circle around her when they're high as hell, saying "Try it, try it, try it." So yeah, it was like that part of the film. It felt like you know, Palace is constantly being like peer pressured into stuff she doesn't want to do. In a way, it feels like Palace is more mature than everybody around her, and they're just like kids living their best life because they have no worries like she has. What do you think?
yeah. And also like she does feel like she cannot share those things with her because of class differences and like race difference as well.
Mhm.
And those things, like how she said, like, you know, yeah, it's a black author, so what? Like,
Mhm.
those things go unspoken
Mhm.
in her friend group, so she constantly sort of has to, like, you know, box them in, bottle them in.
Mhm.
And I felt like she was tired of her friends as well
Yeah,
in that
definitely.
scene, like not only the school and the white professors, but just also her friend group as well.
Yeah.
And also in one scene, she does say, like, I've been putting up with all those people like for 3 years. Why should I go to the party?
Right. Right. But there's a part, I believe, when Palace is in the car and she's having like a conversation with one of her white friends, and basically, you know, Palace says, you know, they kind of expect me to be mad. Everybody feels like they want me to be angry. But there's parts of me where I feel like I just don't want to fight. Like there's certain shit I don't want to fight. Now don't get me wrong, I'll beat a bitch ass. I think she says that like verbatim. But like she's like, you know, this thing isn't it. You know, you guys or some of these people, it's like she's very good at like saying directly how she feels about you without talking to you directly. So when she's talking to a friend, she says like, these people think this is it. But for me, it isn't it. This isn't everything. And this isn't all of me, or something she says. Do you remember that scene, that conversation?
Yeah, I do. And I think, like, yeah, the script is, I feel like, well written in that sense.
Hmm.
And we did, like, uh learn that this movie was inspired by the director's, like, own college years or master's years and things
Yeah.
like that. So yeah, I do feel, you know, when she says she doesn't want to fight, it makes sense because, like, you cannot always correct everyone about, like, being PC or not being racist or saying, like, hey, you have this racist idea. Maybe you
Hmm.
don't know it's racist, but it's racist. And then most people say, I'm not racist.
Hmm.
So it's like turns into a whole, like, almost like an argument,
Right.
and definitely puts most white people out because
Hmm.
then they're like, oh, she thinks I'm racist, so now she
Hmm.
doesn't like me, sort of
Right.
thing. And it sounds very tiring,
It is.
like
It is very
looking from
tiring.
the outside, obviously, like
As
I
a
don't
black
know it.
as a black person, it is very tiring, right? And
Yeah.
I really like that line where she says, you know, they want me to be mad, right? Because they want Palace to somewhat be the angry black artist, or to fit into certain categories where they can commodify it or view it and understand it and just simply label it. You get what I'm saying? But she's
Yeah.
like, no, I'm not going to just be your angry black girl at school. And I'm not going to be your happy-go-lucky, you know, raccoon friend. Like, I'm just trying to be as me as possible, but also disengaged, like distant, not involved, like not letting myself be too tied to this. Because once again, this isn't it. You get what I'm saying?
Yeah. Also, like, in that, when she's saying that, also I feel like there is something to say that, you know, yes, she is an artist and she does want to do art, and this is going to be her profession, et cetera, et cetera. But then, like, she has other shit to deal with.
Hmm.
She has to, like, get out of the, you know, lower class maybe. And she
Hmm.
has to make more money to continue her, like, living. She has a mother that's sick.
Hmm.
She's black in America. Or
Right.
she's black in the world
Hmm.
in
Hmm.
general. So it's like all this thing that she has to deal with.
Right.
And yeah. And now that, like, thinking about it, maybe she wasn't also like that interested in Venice Biennale because she was just tired of being around white people.
But this is the thing, right? If you're, you know, this film, because it deals with art, it doesn't feel like it matches. But if you're in the corporate world, if you're black just doing business at a very high level, pretty soon you'll find out you'll be the only black person in the room. You'll be that one face that's supposed to represent the race, you know? And, yeah, it's sort of ironic because I'm sure Palace dreamed of being an artist as a young girl. And if we're just to fill in the background of this story, maybe Palace got a scholarship to this school, right? And all these other rich kids, their daddies and mommies are paying for it. But she, you know, maybe earned her way in. And now her dream of being an artist is now being broken because damn, being an artist just means being judged all the time by pretentious white people who want to pretend like there's something they're not. You get what I'm saying?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, I think just by being an artist, you do get to, like, you get judged. And then on top of it, if you're a black woman artist,
Mm,
you get judged like times 5,
mm,
times 10.
mm-hmm. Yeah, it's like the judging just keeps on happening for her. But I really like that conversation in the film. And then like the rest of the film, when she wakes up at her friend's house after having like a nice leg day spa nap, stuff like that, her friends are like calling her and saying like, come to the party. You're supposed to be the DJ. We need you here. We want you here, Palace, and stuff like that. So then Palace is like doing her makeup, and then she gets a call from this guy named Ezra, and he's like, hey, is you coming to the party? And she's like, yeah, I'm coming. And she's like smiling and laughing and stuff. And yeah, the makeup scene was great because like she's like, in the mirror, like doing her eyeliner and her blush and concealer, all that sort of stuff. And she's like narrating. This is one of the few times we see Palace like genuinely happy, like just relieved. Anytime she's like alone, smoking, chilling, she seems relaxed but a bit stressed. But when she's doing her makeup, she seems happy. I don't know. I really like that scene. What did you think?
Yeah, it was like she was giving like a tutorial by
Hmm.
herself. And for me, that was definitely relatable because I used to do that and even do that sometimes. Like, not
Hmm.
out loud narrating, but like in my head. But I did out loud narrate it too in the past. And it's just like fun. And it made me think of like, how Gen Z woman, or like the more feminine women's, at least, I don't know,
Hmm.
or any type of woman who enjoys makeup, grew up with like watching a lot of, makeup tutorials on
Hmm.
YouTube. And I'm sure like almost every girl tried to
Hmm.
do like one of her own, or at least just like went in front of the mirror and did that.
Yeah.
So for me, that was like a Gen Z reference as
Yeah.
well. And like also doing makeup does give me joy as well, because it's like painting on your face. And it's almost like, doing art on yourself a little bit.
Hmm. Hmm.
And at least, or that's how I feel about it. And
Yeah.
I don't like try to do it to cover up flaws, but rather just have fun with myself.
Right, right, right. Once again, just watching this movie and not knowing where it was going, like, now that I've seen it from beginning to end, I like how this film has moments of black joy and also like black pain, but also black anxiety, because it covers so many different emotions that you have as a black person, right? Because you find joy in the little things. I'm not a woman, right? So I can't find joy in makeup. Or maybe I'm not a man who enjoys using makeup, because there's men that enjoy that. But you get what I'm saying? It's like the little things that we do in our life as black people, as reprieves and relief from like the stresses of the outside world. Like, it was cool to see that on screen. And there was great character development with Palace. And that was one of those things. Go ahead.
Yeah, yeah, definitely. I mean, I guess we can continue with the story.
Yeah, so basically she ends up going to the party. She walks in there and, it's, it was kind of funny because this film is really true to form. You expect the party scene in like a coming of age, college movie to be packed full of people, drunk everywhere. This is a real art house film. There were like 5 people in the dance hall. There were 5 people, like 5 weird art kids, like dancing in this huge like warehouse with red lights and stuff. Palace goes up to DJ and she hooks up her music, and her music is different than the like do 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 do. Her shit is like do 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 do, and like all the white people like run away, but then Palace's friends come and Palace is DJing and she tells the people go away now. I love that scene so much because oh god, you don't know how many times I've been at like a white party and then I suggest my song and like it's like Kanye or something or Lil Wayne and all the white people stop dancing, but then all the niggas hit the floor like
Oh.
yeah, finally, thank God. But yeah, I don't know. Yeah,
uh,
oh, go ahead. You wanted to say something?
I just wanted to ask, like, what did you think about the music in general? because I guess it's a good time to talk about the
I
soundtrack.
I think I only liked the only song I really liked was when Palace started playing her mix. Like she was
Hmm.
playing like not hip hop songs, but like hip hop beat mixes that were really cool. I like that. What did you think?
Okay. I like the music in general. Definitely also my favorite was like, that part where Palace was playing her music, or just like in general
Uh huh.
the music in the party
Uh huh.
as well.
Mhm.
But like the music is interesting in this movie because the director is in a band called Aunt Sister.
Mhm.
And they have like some of their music in the movie as well.
Mhm.
And apparently, like, I learned this later, but yeah, they sort of reflect Palace's mindset.
Yeah. Yeah. Moving on in the story, basically Palace is at the party. The guy Ezra is there. He's trying to like hit on her. They almost, hook up after they make out in like the hallway outside of the dance floor, but Palace wants to stay and Ezra's like, oh, okay, you want to stay? All right, well, that's cool. And then he walks away. And then Palace is like a little bit upset and she goes back and meets up with, her friends and she's like, yeah, I wanted to stay. He wanted to go or something. And I'm like, I don't want to go. Uh, I think this is a good point to like say that this film is like really just a day in the life of this girl. There's really going to be no big drama. Nobody's going to die. Spoiler alert for anybody here. Because really what happens next in the film is like she does a bunch of drugs with some of her other friends. Yeah, microaggressions happen the entire time while they're doing drugs. They're gossiping about other people. They go outside and swim in the pond. They see like people having sex in the pond. Uh, Palace gets really, really high when she accidentally like drinks some Molly water from one of the other girls. Her teacher even hits on her. Her friend Hot Jake hits on her. Oh man. She goes down into the stairs, to get to her car because she finally wants to leave the party. She sees her black gay friend having like sort of like a panic attack moment in the staircase because he can't rationalize why he's attracted to this ugly guy. But then we hear him say, oh, he's not really even that hot. He's just white. This is what the black gay guy says. Palace makes it to her car almost because she passes out on the pavement right in front of her car. And then Ezra comes, the guy that she's attracted to, like picks her up and puts her in the car, in the driver's seat. And then Palace wakes up with Ezra like right next to her in the car. What did you think about any of those scenes? Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, I liked some of the scenes in the party house, and then I didn't like some of them. Like, for example, there was definitely like one part where I related, where she was like super high with her friend, like one of her best friends,
Hmm.
and they sort of like started dancing together first, and then they lost each other. And then they found each other and they started jumping like, I found you. And that was like definitely something that I would do with my best friend. Like we would, lose each other and then find it because we're too drunk or high or something.
Y'all are funny.
And yeah, that was definitely like cute. And the scene where she's with like this weird girl, Portia, the
Hmm.
small girl.
Hmm.
And yeah, there were like some, interesting lines there where she was like hanging out. She gave her like
Yeah,
and
ketamine.
ketamine. And then, yeah, like then she said like, oh, this reminds me of the family I, pay for to support them in Nicaragua. And I'm like, bitch, are you giving them cat? Like, what the fuck? That was definitely like some weird white people shit there.
Yeah.
And she was just like sort of not, into it, not trying to like correct anybody, just going with the
Hmm.
flow.
Hmm.
And with Ezra, I felt her because yeah, you sense like when a guy is like trying to hook up with you only
Hmm.
for the sake of hooking up with you and not really like trying to, go any further. And
Right.
yeah, like sometimes that's okay because sometimes that's what I want as well, but sometimes not. And that is like sort of very hurtful because it feels like, do you think I'm dumb? You
Hmm.
know, like you're trying to say this or do that or say that like you want to go home and whatever. And or like you say, I don't feel like good leaving you alone like this. Like,
Mhm.
then don't. Or like, just go. Like, I can take care of myself. But don't
Mhm.
say it because you're trying to get me home and then you're going to try to fuck me.
Mhm.
And
Mhm.
it's just like very, discouraging as a woman to go through that. And I felt like when, she went through that. But there were some scenes that were sort of like pointless. Like when she was just walking around looking for like a lighter
Yeah.
and stuff. Like, I don't know, maybe that was just like too long
Mhm.
at some parts, but yeah, generally like it was good. And also, sorry I talked too long, but
No, no, please keep going.
um when she was like going down the stairs, she's like too high at this point, and she's like puking and stuff, and we were talking like with you, oh, that feeling is like so bad because like
Yeah.
everything is turning, if you don't have anyone to take care of you, also you're just like trying to stay straight,
Mhm.
trying to like puke and not puke at the same time.
Yeah.
And yeah, just trying to like have a bed to like lay in. That's
Yeah.
what you need at that point, but you can't get there.
What
And
I
I think they did that good as well.
what I like about this movie is that there's so many relatable parts. Like you said, coming down the stairs when you're like hella wasted, the hangover, the passing out, if you've done, some recreational substances, like being like super zoned out of your mind. There's so many relatable parts in this film. But I wanted to ask you about maybe a part you could relate to more. Like guys hitting on you that you're close with, but you never thought would even try to make a pass at you. Because her friend Hot Jake tried to like hit on her. Her own teacher tried to like hit on her a bit, I felt like. And then of course Ezra is like constantly like, you want some dick? You want some dick? Like Ezra is constantly trying. But what did you think about that?
Like guys trying to hit on girls all the
Yeah,
time.
but guys that are in your circle already or in your
Yeah.
life. You know what I mean? Like a
Um,
teacher or a close guy friend or something like that.
yeah, I think also like the effect of that was that this was like the last night
Yeah.
of the masters, and that was definitely also the vibe. For example, I didn't go to my like university graduation, but in my
Mhm.
high school graduation, that was a vibe as well. Like
Mhm.
everyone went to like this after place club, and then everyone was like trying to fuck each other for the last time.
Mhm.
We've been together for like 5 years, and
Mhm.
all of a sudden, like everyone is like, I'm never gonna see these people again, so I better like fuck her or fuck him. So it was kind of like that. So I
Yeah.
understand that. When it comes to like your friends trying to fuck you like that, that's just
Mhm.
like sad, because then you're not my friend and you were just really like, I don't know, fantasizing about me, or you don't really care about our friendship
I
enough so you
I
can just
think that
like fuck
goes
me.
back. I think that goes back to the question of like, can men and women even be friends?
I would like to think so,
Mhm.
but y'all don't just like stop it. Stop it. Like we're not
Yeah.
just like pussy.
Mhm. Mhm.
But I think that came with like in terms of Palace's, setting.
Yeah.
Like I said, that came with like she knew and they knew that they were not gonna see each other again. So
Right.
it was like that one last time trying to fuck thing.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Now, I liked a lot of the party scenes because they felt so real to me. Like I've been in those houses and those spaces and those parties. I liked how when Portia was high with Palace at the lake, like she was like glowing blue. I don't know if you caught that. That was kind of cool to me. And like how they sort of like made it alive, how Palace was feeling when she was high. What did you think of that?
Yeah, that part was cool. Like I think that was like her, climax a little bit,
Yeah.
when she was like seeing basically auras of other people as colors.
Yeah, and also like they were swimming in the pond, and then Portia and Palace like stop at this part of the pond, and it's like glowing different colors, and they're both like, "Whoa!" But we don't know exactly what those colors were. Like, what
Yeah.
happened?
I mean, you sort of guess like, okay, this is the effect of the highness.
Yeah,
And then like, that's what the director is trying to like tell us a little bit, which was
yeah.
cool. I really like that as well.
Yeah. Once again, like this film is great because it's hella relatable, but there is really no story, if that makes sense. Like there is no climax point, unless you want to consider the Ezra and Palace thing in the car, which we'll talk about later, a climax, but
I think that was a climax.
it didn't feel like one though. If it was a climax, that's pretty bad because it didn't feel like the film was building up to Ezra, like from the beginning. You know,
Okay.
I felt like Ezra sort of came like in the middle of the film. Things for the climax should start at the beginning and we continue to build up to it. You get what I'm saying?
Okay. I mean, we'll discuss it
Yeah.
afterwards, but yeah, go
Uh,
ahead.
but one more thing I have to say, like in a lot of the party scenes, this is when I started to catch on to the film really, that this film was talking about racist microaggressions in whites liberal spaces because you know, like you said, Portia mentioned that she pays for a family in Nicaragua. One of her other friends was like, yeah, we're going to Greece in the summer, and Greece at the end of season is perfect. And Palace has to sit there like, oh, okay, that's cool. And I swear to God, I have like conversations like that almost every single day when I'm talking to like my European students. Like, yeah, we're going to Croatia. It's like, even though I'm in Europe right now, right? And like, I'm living not too far from these places. Like, I'm like, I still feel like I'm not like in that same class as them, like how they travel to Brussels and France all the time. So yeah, there was that. And then her other friend was like, you know, I'm going to hook you up with my accountant. He's going to help you out so much. Don't worry about it. Like there were so many parts in here that showed like the class differences and how can I say this? How white people are just like blind to those sorts of differences. They think their reality is the reality of many other people, like it's the norm, but they live abnormal lives compared to, you know, most Americans and especially black people. You get what I'm saying?
Yeah. And I think also, like, when they had conversations about art with her friends as
Hmm.
well, it does feel like, the white friends that are, like, in good, also financial situations,
Hmm.
it's much easier for them to focus on art or whatever they're studying, and it's sort of like harder for Palace to do that.
Yeah. Yeah. But they said, you know, Palace works really hard. One of her teachers says, you work really hard and you make it look fun and easy. And I feel like she works hard because she's definitely trying to go somewhere with her art, you know? But, and I think that's why it paid off for her. That's why she's in the festival. But, yeah, I also want to talk about like the scene with the gay guy in the staircase. You know, being in those all white spaces, your mind can get warped into thinking that white people actually are better or actually do have something that you want or desire. You get what I'm saying? And I know for a lot of gay black men, there is an even crazier situation that they end up in because gay black men are fetishized for a lot of the same reasons you know, black men in the hetero world are fetishized for, but there's also a performance that they have to put on too for gay white men. So I'm thinking about, wow, this would have been an interesting movie if it was also told from his perspective too. Like what if Palace and him were like best friends, the only two black people in the school, and they walked through this movie together? Like how different would the film be? You get what I'm saying? Like maybe Palace would have had like some relief to talk to him, and we also would have known about his struggles as well as a black man. You get what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I definitely do. And when I saw like that scene, I thought like, okay, like these two black people are struggling pretty much like from the same thing, being
Hmm.
othered in this like white art society.
Hmm.
And they're not talking about it together because maybe they're just not that close.
Hmm.
And yeah, but they're going through the same, and it was definitely like, she's not alone, but
Hmm.
then she doesn't have a space to talk about it. Because I
Hmm.
feel like if she had like a, I don't know, like another black girl that
Hmm.
was like in the same space, they could have been talking about it, or at least just like blowing off steam by calling them like crackers or something
Hmm.
like that.
Yeah, yeah,
Even
yeah,
that helps.
yeah, yeah,
But I don't think still, like, even there was a person, maybe there isn't enough deep conversations around how tiring it is actually to be surviving in these spaces for black
yeah,
people.
yeah,
And
yeah.
it's sort of like joked about, but not really like actually deeply talked about.
Right,
maybe,
right.
or maybe it is. I don't know.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Now, it would have been a interesting film had they, confided more in each other. But they made those two black characters in this film seem very distant from each other. Like they're close friends, but they never had that sort of bond, right?
Yeah, I mean, that's also the thing. Like, just because they are the two black people in the same environment doesn't mean they are going to get along or
Hmm.
they're going to be best friends and just talk shit about white people, you know?
Right.
Like, I feel like
Right,
that's
right.
also a stereotype that,
Right,
like,
right. Yeah,
yeah.
I understand. I understand, right? Because I always remember Barack Obama. He told this story, like how he met Michelle. Michelle and him were the only two black people in this all white law firm. They were the same age, same thing, you know what I mean, in general. And so they thought it was like cliche for them to hook up, right? But they ended up hooking up because, come on, Michelle, come on. So, but yeah, it might have been cliche for them to hang out, right? Especially at this liberal arts school where all the racism is hidden and there's no real bias or prejudice in their face. So yeah, maybe they didn't hang out, but I'm saying they should have to give themselves some place to, actually unwind and be in a safe space. You get what I'm saying?
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah. But going to the car scene now with Ezra and Palace. Basically, Palace and Ezra wake up. No, well, Palace wakes up with Ezra right next to him, and she's like, "What the fuck? Like, what are you doing here?" And he's like, "I just wanted to make sure you were okay. I picked you up, put you in your car, and I just wanted to be here with you and wake up with you because I like you, Palace." And then Palace is actually pissed because she's like, Ezra, you're always that hi guy. You just say hi and then bye. But you never came up to approach me the entire semester. Like you never actually tried to holler at me. So you think, at the last minute you're going to be able to get me? Why? Why, Ezra? Because you think you're the catch? You think you're special? You're not that special. And she keeps on telling him to try to get out of the car. And he's like, oh, it's going to be like that. It's going to be like that. And then, uh, Palace says, you either fuck me or get out of the car. And he's like, what? You trying to pressure me? You think pressuring me or teasing me is going to turn me on? And she's like, yeah, it is. Now fuck me or get out of the car. So then he tries to kiss her. And then she says, oh, you think you're not racist because you kissed a black girl. And he's like, what does that have to do with anything? And then she's like, and she's like, what did she say right there? Did she add on any to that part? I felt like she said, oh, you think you're not
Oh,
racist, huh? I don't know. Go ahead.
I don't remember what she said, like, after that.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Okay. But basically she's like, Ezra, I'm just like, it's so tiring. Like you're tiring. Like, you're just basically getting on my nerves. And, yeah,
Yeah, he gagged her.
yeah, so Ezra put three fingers in her mouth and tried to gag her, I think that's white man's foreplay. I have to ask you, Acti, as somebody, I've never slept with a white man, so I have to ask you, as somebody who slept with a white man, is that how white men do foreplay? Is that how they
No,
get it hot?
nobody put their fingers in my mouth to gag me. That was insane. I don't know what the fuck is wrong with Ezra.
You know,
Why would you do that? Like, why?
Gen Z has been on the hub way too long. Like he grew up on the hub and all sorts of crazy tabs, subgenres you've never heard of.
Yeah, it was just so weird.
Yeah, but yeah. Now that I think about it, everybody in this movie was probably born in like 2001. That makes me feel so old. That's
Anyway,
true. I feel so old. But yeah, basically, Ezra and her kiss. She gags him too. Like she gets on top of him because they're like about to f. But she like gets out of the passenger side and says, Ezra, get the F out. And he's like, really? It's gotta be like that? And she's like, yeah, yeah. Cause she didn't end up, having sex with him or anything like that. She ends up drunkenly driving home. She can barely enter the door and, she's sleeping on the couch. Her friend Aiden comes and like cooks her like hangover food and gives her some tea and they catch up on what happened last night. Aiden apparently hooked up with some girl, right?
no, she hooked up with Hot Jake.
No, another person
There
hooked
was
up with
another
Hot
girl.
Jake. Yeah, the other girl in the car, the pink hair girl that she went to the train station with, hooked up with Hot Jake because she said her boyfriend was trying to make her sleep with Hot Jake for. Why are white men so weird? Anyway, Aiden hooked up with a girl, and she asked Palace, "What did she do?" And Palace gives like a side answer, kind of making it ambiguous as to whether she slept with Ezra or not. Right? That's how I interpret it. Am I
Yeah.
right or am I wrong?
I mean, didn't she say something like, it was like make out session or something?
I think she said like she put her fingers up and like showed that she gagged him or something
Oh,
like
yeah,
that.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
So it could have been interpreted like they could have really had sex,
Like
right?
really freaky sex.
Yeah, really freaky stuff. Because then her friend is like, "Ooh, you go, hot girl, or slut or whore or something like that." You get what I'm
Yeah.
saying? Like he's
Yeah.
like, yeah, yeah. And so, yeah, they hug and say goodbye. Oh no, there was this one last microaggression. One of the best ones. This is where I really caught it. Her white friend asked Palace, "Why didn't you just fly to Chicago?" And then Palace says, "Girl, don't start," because Palace is like, these white people. Why didn't you just like fly? Like it's so much faster and easier. Like fly, duh.
Yeah, yeah.
But yeah, what did you think of the goodbye? Because when they hug and say goodbye, her white friend says, I'm probably not going to call. I'm probably not going to call you over the summer or whatever. But, that doesn't mean I don't want to. And Palace says, girl, I know. What did you think about, their last goodbye?
Yeah, I mean, I'm gonna say this, and it's kind of sad, but it reminded me of like some friendships I have right now in my
Mm-hmm.
masters.
Mm-hmm.
Because yeah, like I also don't think, as much as I love like, those people, or I enjoy conversations with some of the people in my classes, I'm probably not going to see them again.
Mm-hmm.
And I think it was like honest and sort of like proving the point that, it wasn't that real of a friendship, and it
Mm-hmm.
was just to sort of like passing time a
Mm-hmm.
little bit with each other, and then, using each other for good times and stuff like that. Not in a bad way,
Mm-hmm.
but it was like a kind of like a surface level friendship.
Yeah.
Not that they didn't share anything important. I'm sure they did to a point, but
Mm-hmm.
it's not like those lifelong friendships that you have.
Yeah.
And, and also like the fact that Palace was like, yeah, yeah, I know, I'm probably not going to call you either. And she's
Mm-hmm.
like, sort of like, it's fine. Like, I don't need you in my life, because for the past 3 years, it's been enough.
Yeah.
Even like with her other friend, which we're gonna get to, like she didn't really hug her.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it was like halfway. Like, this is the thing, like, when I graduated college, I felt like the friends I had, they were gonna be sort of like friends for life, you know? And because in America, there is sort of like this pressure to build connections in university because you're in a class of people who are eventually gonna do great things. Like one or two people might be able to get you a job in the future or something like that. Right? So there is like this pressure to make strong bonds in college. But as like Palace discovered in her time, yeah, you really don't, those bonds really aren't there, right? Everybody sort of comes from different worlds, different places, different spaces, and we're here at this college and we create our own mini world, but for a short time. And then we evolve and grow and disappear in our lives. So yeah, that's how I felt about that.
Yeah, same.
Yeah. Yeah. And, yeah, basically, Palace then, drives with her friend to the train station in her car. Remember, like, Palace doesn't have a car. She's borrowing, like, her friend's car. So her friend is riding with her so she can take the, car back. And, yeah, her friend is in the car telling her what she did last night. And she hooked up with Hot Jake because her boyfriend was pressuring her to sleep with Hot Jake for, like, years or something like that. And I think this might be a good time to mention that when they say certain names of people in this film, the words are bleeped. So like they might be saying, beep, told me to do this. What did you think about that part of the film?
Yeah, for me that was a bit annoying, honestly, because
Mhm.
it like took me out of the conversation, and it was harder to make sense of the conversation like that.
Mhm.
Because at first I was like, wait, are they censoring like curse words?
Mhm.
But then I realized no, because they say curse words. So why would they like censor those ones? And
Yeah.
then I realized it's like names of people that most of the time they talk shit about.
Yeah.
And I just interpret it as, okay, maybe like these people are outside of their world.
Mhm.
So like it's not necessary to put them in the story and confuse the watcher a little bit.
Mhm.
Or I don't know, like if they're beeping, for example, black people's names. I don't know.
Mhm.
I was
Mhm.
thinking like, what is the beep for? So I'm still kind of confused about that. But what did you think?
No, no, I just think they tried to make the film seem more like a high valued like vlog. Like these are real people. It's almost like a documentary, slice of life, day in the life of these art kids. And so to protect the people that didn't want to be in the film, cut their names out, like beep them out, you know? So,
Yeah. Or
yeah,
yeah, it might be also like they were trying to create like this very small circle of art kids.
yeah, yeah. But yeah, basically the film just ends with Palace on the train having a lot of flashbacks. No, no, no. Oh, I skipped a scene. Oh, one of the most important scenes. I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry.
Oh
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah. So basically, the one of the final scenes in this film is like images and pictures of upstate New York, all the small diners, old townhouses, the lake, the hills, all that stuff. Beautiful scenery while this black man, the audio of this black man quitting his job and calling everybody racist as he leaves work. So he's talking like, man, I'm sick of this place. These people been playing on my check. That girl there, she racist. She been playing with my check. Every time I come in here with all these white people, they've been racist to me every single day. John, I like you, but this woman here, she racist, and the woman in the background is like, you don't know nothing about me. And the man says, shut up, bitch. You a blue-eyed devil. I'm like, damn. he going, he going in. Like the man was going in for like a good 2 minutes on all the white people at his job who had been racist to him and he was just doing an epic fiery rant, right? I really like that scene, and I like that they kept it in here or put it in here because it makes the movie hit home that this film is about, black alienation and subdued black rage that can't be expressed. Because I think it's real easy for somebody to watch this film and be like, this film had no point. Especially if they're one of those people who's like, I don't see color. There's no such thing as racism. Like it's very easy for somebody to watch it and not get the message of this. You get what I'm saying?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, you have to like read between the lines very good to
Hmm.
find out like what this movie's actually about a little bit.
Yeah.
Um,
What
but
did you
yeah,
think of that scene?
about that scene, I felt like that scene sort of represented that inner explosion in Palace
Hmm.
as well, because
Hmm.
maybe that's how she wanted to go off,
Hmm.
at the end. She just wanted to tell it like it is,
Hmm.
tell her so-called like liberal, I don't see color type of friends that like, you know what, like you think you're all like, liberal and you think you don't discriminate, you think you're not racist, but you say racist stuff, bitch. Like
Hmm.
maybe that's what she wanted to like sort of explode, but she just sort of kept it in herself.
Yeah.
And instead she, did drugs and, I don't know, like just not, uh, gave empty promises. And
Yeah.
she did sort of explode on Ezra
Hmm.
a
Hmm.
little bit, but not only because of race, but also because of just like relationship wise as well, like
Yeah.
man
Yeah.
and woman situation.
Yeah.
So yeah, I felt like it showed her like what she was actually wanted to say maybe, or like a part of it,
Yeah.
or just like contemplating that as well.
Yeah. Yeah. If anything, I'm gonna say this. This might be an extreme theory, but that is an art piece done by Palace. So she took the audio of maybe like some viral clip from like World Star Hip Hop or Twitter or something of black man quits job and epic racist rant and then juxtaposed that audio to like images of upstate New York, right, to express herself. I'm gonna say that was Palace's art piece, and if that was what she displayed in Venice, then bravo, madame, bravo.
Wow. Yeah. That would be a cool like theory. That is a cool theory.
But what did you think about upstate New York? Like, how did the place look?
It looked nice. Sort of like small town vibes.
Hmm.
You know, like just boutique places and American flags.
Hmm.
And I don't know, like it looked nice. It looked like sort of peaceful
Yeah.
because that's not what I think of when I think of New York. But then
Hmm.
I forget New York has like a bunch of places that are kind of different from each other.
Yeah.
But yeah, it did look nice. It did look very white,
Very white, very small town, very, very
bougie.
American. Yeah, kind of like low key bougie, right? Like they're not showing their wealth, but each house costs $1 million.
Yeah, it's like cottage bougie core.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. There we go. Look at you, cottage bougie. Look at that, cottage bougie core. Okay, look at AKDI just coining new phrases and terms. But yeah, I really like that scene. It hits the nail on the head and sort of is like the scream. It's like the moment of the film for Palace, I guess. But yeah, the end of the film is like she's like on a train back home and she's having like all these flashbacks of everything that happened, right? And memes keep popping up in the corner of the screen. It's almost a bit chaotic. And she makes it to the train station and she's like still like hungover and stuff. She's like laying down on her bags and she sees the teacher at the party who tried to hit on her. He comes up to her and it was like, that party was great last night. Palace, and she was like, "You were there," and he was like, "Ha ha, yeah, I was there," and he basically says goodbye, Palace, and walks away. And she's on the train, she makes it to Chicago, and then the movie ends. And yeah, I really didn't like the ending. It felt like they just sort of cut it off when they hit the 1 hour 30 minute mark. It was like, hey guys, we finally did it. We got a feature film. We just filling in space. So yeah, didn't really like the ending. Too abrupt. No real, like the ribbon wasn't tied for me. It was still felt like there was more that could have been said. But go ahead.
I liked the ending actually because we skipped over this one, but we also see Palace's mom
Oh
because
yeah,
she sends her like a voicemail or something like that,
yeah.
and she basically what she says kind of hints to this conflict between her brother and her dad
Mhm.
because her mom says like if you call your brother he will pick you up, if you call your father he will pick you up, but like
Mhm.
they're not coming together.
Mhm.
Or something. I don't know.
Yeah.
And we know she's like the eldest daughter, and we do get the hints of like her being maybe like lower middle class.
Mhm. Mhm.
So yeah, it felt like, I felt like I kind of know that feeling, like when you're away for some time and then you go back home and you're like, oh shit, like I'm here again.
Mhm.
And then also you feel how much you changed and somewhat like I outgrew that place,
Mhm.
and how you don't want to get into like the same old conflicts, the same old like conversations, either with your family, with your friends, and you sort of like over it, about certain things. But then it also, there's like that warmth feeling when you're there as well,
Mhm.
because that is home to you and that is kind of who you are. So you do feel that acceptance also. So I like that scene, and I think it was relatable for me.
Yeah, I just wish like the scene ended with like us seeing like a shot of Palace walking into like the city, right? And we see her in a different context because out to that film, like up to this point in the film, we only saw her in like small town upstate New York. Like show her like walking down the avenue holding her suitcases, in a big city with a bunch of other people around her and showing that, now she's in the world and she can be something other than the performance she was giving to this small group of indie white kids at college. And I
Yeah.
think, go ahead.
But I think she was also contemplating like which one is better or
Mm,
worse, because like, yeah, for example, being abroad, living abroad, being the outsider and things like that, that's harsh. But then you
Mhm.
also get to like experience new things,
Mhm.
and you don't have to give that much of a shit about other people.
Mhm.
Uh, but like when you're back home, there's the familiarity, acceptance, but then
Mhm.
there's also like those cycles that you get stuck into.
Mhm.
So
Mhm.
it's like, I guess also for her, I felt like she was contemplating like which one is better, being with like, the people I know, and also to a degree with the people who look like me and have the
Mhm.
same experiences as me, but
Mhm.
then be stuck in those conversations in those spaces, or is it better to be like with the liberal whites?
No, I think, the movie just sort of left with us looking at Palace's face, feeling like she was still bothered, you know? And I feel like in this film, Palace is constantly trying to remind herself, and also a little bit the people around her when she says, this isn't it, that there's a world outside of this, and all this pretentious stuff, all this trying to show appearances to friends, even trying to hook up with people, it doesn't matter because there's a real world outside of it. And I think the film would have been better by showing that Palace actually will be rewarded for having that focus by like walking into the city, being free outside. She can be whoever she wants. Or she ends with like hugging her mom, like bringing it full circle. Like this is what it's all about. She just was doing all of this for her mom. And like, I think it would have been better if she just hugged her mom at the end and said, Mom, I did it. And she says, I know you could have did it, baby. I was proud of you, baby. That would have been great. No?
I mean, that wouldn't have been the full circle because she's a dead daughter, remember?
But her mom is still alive.
Still.
uh, I don't know. I don't know. I just wish there was just more resolution because, Palace has a purpose. Palace had a mission and she succeeded in her mission. Now let her have her reward for us as the audience, not make us feel like, oh, poor Palace at the end, you know?
Yeah.
But, so yeah, I don't know. What's your final rating for this film? Final score? Anything?
Um, yeah, there are like some really good sides to this movie, but then there are also really downsides.
Mhm.
Good sides are like somewhat the cinematography. I think it's good for like an art house and amateur sort of movie.
Mhm.
And this is also the first like debut of the director as well.
Mhm.
And I did feel like the story was personal. It was like well thought out. Like the script, the dialogues were really like clever.
Mhm.
When it comes to like giving that message subtly.
Mhm.
And yeah, I like the music in general, and like the themes, and like how they used social media sort of, and how they did the phone calls, the memes, though it could have been like done better when it comes to the memes.
Mhm.
And like even with that passage at the end of the guy going off on the white lady,
Mhm.
those are the pros for me, and the cons are just like the acting, I
Mhm.
guess, and sort of like some scenes, like for example in the party house, that were kind of unnecessary for
Mhm.
me. But yeah, overall my score is like 7, and I agree with you. I don't think everyone will enjoy this movie, but if you
Mhm.
do like to, I don't know, contemplate about, race, and about how like black people feel around white people, I guess if you're trying to with them, empathize with them, sorry, um, you know, or if you just do want to have a conversation like that, I think it's a good movie to start that conversation.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, this film is not for everybody, in my opinion. Uh, I can even really understand if somebody watches this and says, I just wasted an hour and a half of my life. I could feel like that because the film is not supposed to, take you on a journey, like in the sense of like there's a plot, a story, a climax, and a resolution. Like there is none of that here. It's just like it's a glimpse into this girl's life, which is a life that reflects the experiences of so many black people in white spaces, right? And this movie touched me because I've been in those spaces a lot of times. And right now, being in Hungary, being an English teacher, sitting down with people that have no ideas about my experience or anything like that, and trying to downplay my blackness a lot of the times, just trying to get through the day. So there's so many parts of this film that are resonant with me. But like Acti said, there's the acting that's very amateurish in this film, the memes popping up sometimes that don't make sense or it's hard to grasp what they are. And, yeah, some of the, just the way the story is done. Like there's parts of the film that seem pointless, like Palace wandering around asking people for a light for a cigarette. Like, there's parts in here that feel like space fillers. But it's a better Gen Z movie than most, I would say. So my final score is like a 7.5, but I don't recommend this film to everybody, you know? Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, if you're into art films, I think you will enjoy it.
Yeah.
Or if you are just curious about this sort of conversation, you will enjoy it. But other
Yeah.
than that, it might seem like kind of like a waste of time. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. But, that's all I got to say about it. Anything else you want to do for this?
No.
No? All
No.
right. Well, this has been episode 57 of Simon and Acti. I almost said Simon and African. Simon and Acti movie reviews, the African Desperate 2022 film. Thank you to everybody who's been supporting our content recently. The views have been going up consistently on the videos. The biggest one we did recently was the one for Death of a Virgin, which has hit around 300 views. Tell Them You Love Me is close to 10,000 views, and other movie reviews we've done are like slowly crossing over that 100 view mark and stuff like that. I'm starting to realize that movie reviews are a lot like the movie business in and of itself. Like a movie studio will make 50 films that year and only 2 of them will be blockbusters, right? So like every time we do a movie review, we don't know if it's going to hit or miss because we're still building our fan base. But we're hoping to get more hits as they come. But if you want to help us on our journey, send us movies that you want us to review. We will review them, and you can even join in on the conversation with us on X. So yeah, just keep that in mind and be easy out there, everybody, and peace.